What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
Before we start poring over price lists and studying charts, let's briefly recall the movements of currency exchange rates. Our starting year of 2013 was the last full year of the dollar at 30. Already at the end of the next year, 2014, the exchange rate began its growth and reached its first peak of 60 rubles in early 2015. After the next jump by 2016, the indicator stabilized at 62 to 64 rubles and remained so in 2019, when we compiled another cut of statistics. Now, by the beginning of 2021, the dollar has risen by about 10 rubles and fluctuates at 73 to 75 rubles per unit. Given the short-term rise to 80 rubles at the end of 2020 and the rather vague outlook, the increase in car prices looks expected, even in isolation from other realities like the size of duties and utilization fees. Let's take a look at how price lists have changed since 2019 and what they were in a previous life. As before, for greater clarity, we will break down the cars by class to more accurately track the dynamics for different price categories. It should be noted that the most illustrative and correct would be a comparison of prices for models that have not changed generation during this time. But, as it is easy to guess, taking into account the delta of 8 years, it is impossible to count on it. However, there are some examples of such longevity, and the first of them is the Lada Granta which has not changed generation during this time, but only underwent restyled in 2018. Recall that prices for the entire Lada model lineup were raised 6 times in 2020 alone, and now the cheapest Granta in the sedan body costs exactly $500,000. In 2013, the price of the base version was $279,000, so it's up 59% by 2019 and 79% by now. And if we remember that at the time of its release in 2011, the Granta, presented as a replacement for the aged 7, cost $229,000, we can note that the model has already passed the stage of doubling in price. Well, since 2019, it has increased in price by 12%, although in monetary terms it is solid for the ultra-budget class 55,000 rubles. The maximum price tag on the Granta has grown slightly less dramatically. In 2019, the model went up in price almost 1.5 times relative to 2013, to $635,000, and now a richly equipped sedan with an automatic costs $693,000, that is, 61% more expensive than 8 years ago. Staying in the budget class, let's remember the oldest of the conveyor models of AvtoVAZ. Niva just the other day returned its name. But at the same time it has not changed much since our starting year 2013. True, then it cost from 354,000 rubles, and now prices start from the mark of 600,000. The increase, thus, is almost 70%. And it cannot even be justified by the fact that in 2013 the SUV did not have air conditioning and heated seats and mirrors. The car for 600,000 does not have them either. And for a 3-door in the version Luxe, where they will be, it is necessary to give 656,000. And separately we note that for objectivity we do not even take into account the urban version, which costs 676,000. Well, for the last year Niva became more expensive by 15% or 76,000 rubles. Let's move from domestic cars to foreign cars, albeit localized. One of the best sellers of both 2013 and 2020, Hyundai Solaris, note that he changed generation in 2017, but the prices in the transition period practically did not change. That is, the update itself did not bring a tangible rise in price. But the years brought, if in 2013 the sedan cost from $459,000, now, from $805. The appreciation, thus, amounted to a good 75%. Relative to 2019 Solaris became more expensive by 8%, or 59,000 rubles. And also the Korean budget car remains true to itself. The air conditioner in the basic configuration never appeared. It is added only in the next version for 886,000, along with heating, audio system, and other options. Well, and in the top version the model has risen in price from 689,000 to 1 million rubles, that is on 60%. The psychological barrier in $1 million was passed just in 2019, when the most expensive Solaris, without taking into account additional options, already cost $1.011 million. Well, since then, the units have neatly swapped places, and 1,011,000 turned into 1,101,000, adding 9% to the price tag. An equally interesting example is the Renault Logan here, too. You can make an adjustment for the change of generations, which for the Frenchman became a much more tangible step up than for Solaris. But also prices have changed quite significantly. If in 2013, the old Logan cost from 349,000 rubles, then by 2016 he rose in price to 409,000, and in 2019 the new generation already started from 577,000. Now the sedan is estimated at a minimum of 683,000. That is, even over the past year it has gone up in price by 106,000 or 18%. Against this background, the price growth almost 2 times since 2013 is already perceived as something logical, especially taking into account all the same change of generations. Well, the maximum price tags, as usual, added a little less, plus 78% compared to 2013 and only plus 6% by 2019. Last year, for completeness of the picture, we took to consideration another representative of the budget segment, which has not changed generation since 2013. It was a Volkswagen Polo, however. Even he received a successor in 2020, even if the technical changes in the novelty was not so much. The platform remained the same, and globally the car actually became a restyling of the rapid liftback. But for us the main question is whether the change of generations can justify the rise in price of the car by exactly 1/3, because in 2019 sedan Polo cost from 680,000 rubles, and the current Polo liftback starts from 908,000. About 2013 is out of the question. Today's car is no longer the Simpleton, which cost twice as cheap, from 450,000 rubles. Moreover, the price growth in 2 times is fair both for the minimum and for the maximum configuration, 1.3 million versus 641,000 rubles. Ironically, of the 3 models we chose as a reference in 2016, only one made it to 2021. Ford left Russia, and we were looking at 2019 Focus stock prices. And the Volkswagen Golf has had a real swing. It has been leaving and then returning to our market, and is now in another phase of gone, but will still come back. The 7th generation has left our market, and the recently appeared 8th generation should come this year. At least, the plans for the withdrawal have already been announced, and there is a page of the model on the official website. So if the Golf comes out at least no later than the 2nd quarter, we'll have a reason to update the material. Well, now let's take a look at the only model which has been chosen to represent the whole C-Class, the Skoda Octavia. The Skoda Octavia, the picture for it, it must be said, is also quite bleak. We talk about the fact that previously for $1 million you could buy the Maximal, and now only the base, back in 2019, and now, with the change of generations, the Octavia has risen in price even more. The price list starts from the amount of 1.4 million rubles, that is, since 2013, the liftback has risen in price almost 5 times, to be precise, by 139%. Yes, and in relation to 2019, the increase by a quarter looks very solid. As for the maximum configurations, here the price increase is less shocking, only by 78% from 2013 and by 11% from 2019. However, in reference to 2019, it is worth taking into account one more circumstance. At the plant in Nizhny Novgorod, where the localized Octavia is assembled, only cars with a 1.4 TSI engine are still in production. Later this year, it will be joined by 1.6 MPI and 2.0 TSI engines, which should appropriately affect the price lists. With what, but with the choice of a representative of the business class in 2016, we certainly did not miss. Toyota Camry remains an unshakable pillar of this segment. Having seen off Nissan Tina and Ford Mondeo from Russia and looking smugly towards Mazda 6, Camry remained face-to-face with Koreans and Volkswagen Passat. True, even localization has not become a salvation from a tangible rise in prices. In 2013, the base sedan cost 969,000 rubles, and today for the car of the new generation ask for a minimum of 1.78 million rubles, that is, the rise in price amounted to 810,000 or 84%. It is, of course, not in 5 times, as at the same Octavia, but also quite appreciable. At the same time, the maximum price tag increased even more strongly, by 87%, up to 2.77 million. However, if we compare these prices with 2019 within the same generation, the appreciation of the minimum and maximum configurations will amount to only 13% and 11%, respectively. We continue to follow the impoverishment of the Russian market in parallel with the rise in prices. Of the two crossovers we covered in 2019, one remains. The Ford Kuga has left us along with its countrymen, so we are left to look at the price dynamics of one of the segment leaders. The Volkswagen Tiguan. Here it is worth saying that with the change of generations in 2016, the Tiguan, which moved to the MQB platform, has become somewhat more solid. This, however, does not prevent us from remembering that in 2013 it could be bought for 900,000 rubles. Now the basic version with front-wheel drive and 1.4-liter engine costs 1.75 million rubles, that is, almost twice as expensive, by 94%, to be specific. For the maximum configuration, the growth was more than twofold, 2.93 million versus 1.33 million, or plus 120%. Of course, here the direct comparison is even more incorrect, at least because of the difference in engines, not counting the equipment list. But also in relation to the 2019 Tiguan has added as much as 17% in the base and 13% in the top. Where the Granta will rise in price by 50,000, Land Cruiser will reach 500,000. But they have something in common. Land Cruiser is the third participant of our review after Granta and Niva, which has not changed generation since 2013, and the only one among foreign cars. The Japanese are faithfully stamping special versions and get stable profit. Although we haven't seen any updates for a long time, since 2019, the TRD and Executive Lounge versions are still at the top of the price list. The base version has gone up in price by almost 2 million over 8 years, from 3.25 to 5.24 million rubles. However, in percentage terms it is only 61%, much lower than in many other participants of our material. But the top version showed almost twofold growth, due to the effect of a low base. In 2013, the Land Cruiser did not have such expensive special versions, and the maximum configuration was more expensive than the starting one by only 150,000 rubles. But the comparison with 2019 is absolutely fair and illustrative, because here even the special versions remain the same. So you can absolutely objectively say that the SUV went up in price by 7% in the starting and 8% in the maximum configuration. For clarity, let's consider not only the long-lived, but also a typical representative of the class of large crossovers, the Volkswagen Touareg, which underwent a change of generations in 2018. Pre-reformed car in 2013 was available from 2 million rubles. Today, the cost of the third-generation car starts from 4 million, that is, during this time Volkswagen has become not only noticeably more technologically advanced, but also twice as expensive. The maximum configuration does not catch up with the base in percentage terms. 3 million against 5.4 give an increase of 76%. If you track the dynamics more objectively, within a generation, the Touareg has gained 15% and 6% since 2019 in the initial and maximum configurations, respectively. Strange as it may seem, even in the premium segment there are models that have not survived to our days. In particular, from heroes of our previous review it is one BMW, which had limited sales before, and recently changed rear drive to front drive and has ceased to be interesting as an entrance ticket to the world of real BMW. Instead, it was brought to us a co-platform sedan 2 Series. And the honor of compact premium remained to defend Mercedes-Benz A-Class. However, it does not demonstrate the price dynamics in the last couple of years very clearly. The fact is that the lineup of configurations and motors has been cut, so now we have only one average version for 2.56 million rubles and the AMG version for 3.7 million. For example, even in 2019, the price fork was from 1.79 to 2.63 million. Well, and in the distant 2013 prices were from 875,000 to 1.17 million rubles. That is, the base cost 3 times cheaper than today. But A-Class in our country has a very limited popularity, so for a more objective understanding of the situation in the premium it is better to look at crossovers. For example, Mercedes-Benz GLS in the years when it was still a regular GL, cost in Russia from 3.47 to 5.2 million rubles. In 2019, he changed generation and received a price from 6.9 to 8.8 million rubles. Well, today, another year after the debut, prices only start at 9 million. And if the increase of 2.5 times by 2013 for an imported model in general is not so surprising, then plus 30% to the price for the last year is already something more noticeable. By the way, in calculating the maximum cost, we left out the AMG version for $14 million and the Maybach version for $15.5 million. Well, let's finish with a look at one of the most distinctive models on our market, which is loosely tied to something logical: Mercedes-Benz G-Class. Strangely enough, since 2013 even it has managed to change generation, so we will add a bit of logic to the figures. The price of the new model includes the cost of its engineering rethinking. In 2013, the SUV was asking from $4.15 million for the diesel version to $5.3 million for the G500, and that was a lot. In 2019, after the change of generations, only the G500 managed to enter our market, and it cost already $9.5 million. Well, and today buyers can again choose between gasoline and diesel. However, they cost $11.5 million and $15 million respectively. And this is not counting the AMG version, which costs $19.5 million. The price increase, if it is interesting to anyone, relative to 2013 amounted to plus 177% for the diesel and plus 184% for the gasoline version. Well, over the last year, the G500 has become more expensive by 58%. In conclusion, by tradition, we will not make any global conclusions in this review. The reasons for price growth are largely clear, and the dynamics depends on specific conditions such as localization, generation change, import duties, and so on. And taking into account that the next increase in the utilization fee is coming, we will return to the topic of price hikes in a year. Then we will see how the price lists will be affected by currency exchange rates and innovations in Russian legislation. In conclusion, the significant rise in car prices from 1.5 times to 3 times their original value highlights the evolving dynamics of the automotive market. Factors such as inflation, supply chain disruptions, and increased demand have all played a role in this dramatic shift. As we move forward, it will be essential for consumers to stay informed and adapt to these changes, ensuring they make the best decisions when purchasing a vehicle. Thank you for watching, and be sure to join us for more insights on automotive trends.